Naradam Sura Pujitam. At the auspicious arrival of Sri Narada, Sri Vyasadeva got up respectfully and worshipped him, giving him veneration equal to that given to Brahmaji, the creator. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Vidhi means Brahma, the first created living being. He is the original student as well as professor of the Vedas. He learned it from Sri Krishna and taught Narada first. So Narada is the second Acharya in the line of spiritual disciplic succession. He is the representative of Brahma, and therefore he is respected exactly like Brahma, the father of all vidhis, regulations. Similarly, all other successive disciples in the chain are also equally respected as representatives of the original spiritual master. At the auspicious arrival of Sri Narada, Sri Vyasadeva got up respectfully and worshipped him, giving him veneration equal to that given to Brahmaji, the creator. Srila Vedavyas is here sitting at that great holy place of Badrikashram on the banks of the holy river Saraswati. Everything all around him perfectly auspicious. Ananda Vrindavan Prabhu, Haribo. Welcome back to Radha Gopinath's temple. How are you feeling? Haribo. Everyone welcome him back. After a successful operation. But if we are in the proper spirit, when we come to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, we should actually come in the consciousness that we are putting ourselves on an operating table. Because the words of Srimad Bhagavatam are to be accepted in the same way as a surgical operation to remove the disease of ignorance from our consciousness. And the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam is like a surgeon. And as you know, a surgeon has no right to act whimsically according to his own speculative ideas of how operations should be performed. A surgeon should be properly trained by previous doctors according to the proper medical books, and he should simply perform the surgery accordingly. So in the same way, it is our duty to present Srimad Bhagavatam as the previous acharyas have taught. And if we approach it as listeners in this spirit that today I will have a major surgery with no anesthesia. And if I do not have this surgery, my life is in great jeopardy. So this we can learn from Ananda Vrindavan Prabhu's example. Here, Srila Vedavyas, he's in the beautiful mountain ranges of the Himalayas, Adibadri, such a beautiful, beautiful place. Some of you have been, Badrikashram, high in the Himalayas, no pollution, no unnecessary noises, there's no passion, there's no ignorance. It is so holy of a place. It has been sanctified by the tapasya of Sri Narada Rishis, sanctified by the tapasya of Uddhava, the dear beloved friend of Lord Sri Krishna. So many wonderful, wonderful experiences can be assimilated by just breathing the air of such a holy place. It is one of the foremost holy places in all of creation. So Vyasadeva was sitting peacefully in such a calm and quiet place. And also he was a perfectly self-realized soul who had complete control of his mind and senses. So for what reason would he be so disturbed? Generally, disturbances are created either from within or without. In this case, there were no disturbances outside the most sanctified place. And he wasn't being disturbed by his mind. He had controlled his mind. He was perfectly keeping it in harmony with Krishna. And his senses were fully engaged in the loving service of the Lord. But yet, Srila Vedavyas was in deep distress. And his distress was that he was feeling himself not successful in his service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It was in the nature of a great devotee is this type of humility. He was thinking himself incompetent because his mission as a Shaktivesh avatar was to delineate the absolute truth in so many wonderful ways, to give all humanity the chance to achieve the perfection of life. But yet, he felt that his real work was undone, and he didn't know why. He was in distress, and he was also extremely receptive for the answer, for the solution by which he can better serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this, in fact, is what we all have to come to if we truly want to properly approach a proper spiritual master. One is we have to be frustrated in our life. In our condition, we have to be frustrated in our material efforts, in our material pursuits. And we should also even feel frustrated in our spiritual life. Because after all, if we think we're doing everything very nicely, then what is the need of a spiritual master? What is the need of learning anything? When Westerners come to India preaching Krishna consciousness, one of the great obstacles is most everybody you talk to, they say, oh yes, I know Krishna. I am a Hindu. I know Mahabharata. I know Ramayana. I know Gita. Therefore, you cannot say anything to such a person except Haribol. Take this prasad. By eating this prasad, you will become purified and realize that you know nothing about Krishna. So as long as somebody thinks as long as somebody is content in their particular spiritual position, there's no need to inquire submissively to understand something more. So therefore, materially we should be frustrated, and spiritually we should have some sense of frustration. Frustration in the sense that we are hungry, we are greedy for something beyond what we are. And at the same time, we have to be receptive. We have to be anxious for the solution. We have to be open with our heart and our ears for proper direction and instruction. So this was Vedavyas's position. He was perfectly representing a proper candidate to hear the truth from a bona fide spiritual master. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshantite jnanam jnaninastatpadarshana. Just try to learn the truth from a proper Gurudev by inquiring submissively and rendering service to him. Self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he is seeing the truth. So, of course, we may be advanced to some extent in Krishna consciousness, but at every stage it is required that we maintain this type of relationship with our spiritual master that Vedavyas has with Narada. We may have been in the movement for 10 or 15 or 20 or even 30 years, but that does not mean we ever are not anxious to hear from our spiritual master in an anxiety, feeling, I need your mercy, Gurudev. I am insufficient, materially and spiritually, without your mercy. And Vyasadeva, what was his spiritual realization? And yet he is still in this consciousness. And if we can compare ourselves to Vedavyas, and we are far superior to him, then perhaps you can be content in your position and you don't need any further guidance or direction. But when Srila Prabhupada was on Jaladuta, he was praying to his Guru, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and praying to Krishna through his Guru, that I'm incompetent to do this service. If you give me the words to speak, only then they will understand. And do not think he was only feeling like this on the Jaladuta. He was feeling like this wherever he was preaching. That is the nature of a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava never considers himself to be the doer. A Vaishnava never considers himself to be competent. A Vaishnava is always feeling himself humble, depending on the mercy of the senior acharyas, and he's always receptive to receive that mercy. And sometimes we find that devotees who are not properly cultured in what Vaishnavism truly is, in these higher realms of consciousness, sometimes they become proud. And sometimes they think they really do not require to hear anything from anyone, because they already know. I've already read the books. I know so many slokas. I'm such a good preacher. I'm giving so much good guidance to others. I'm content. I'm very good. But can you compile the 4 Vedas, the 18 Puranas, in perfect metric poetry, the Mahabharata, the Vedanta Sutra, the Itihastas, the Srimad Bhagavatam? And not only did Vyasa some of these literatures, not only did he compose them, but he wasn't sitting there with a computer deleting things and going over what he had already done with editors and proofreaders, like even the best authors today. He wasn't scratching out. He was just speaking. And as he was speaking, without stopping, Ganapati was writing. And they made a pact that if you stop writing, I will stop speaking. If you stop speaking, I will stop writing. So I believe the whole Mahabharata was written in this way, no stopping. Perfect. Sanskrit, grammar, poetry, everything is there. Included within that is the Bhagavad Gita, representing the highest truths. Are you so competent to compile all the Vedic literatures? Yet Vyasadeva was still feeling himself in need, depending on some higher power to fulfill his purpose. He was still longing for direction, for guidance. And actually, even in this spiritual world, when you are in an absolutely perfect spiritual form, Siddha Deha, your Swarup, Bhakti Swarup, even at that time, you're never thinking that I'm very good. I have done enough. In Vrindavan we find everyone is thinking, what more can I do for Krishna? And everyone is under a higher authority. Everyone is anxious to do more service, anxious to learn more, and receptive to hear how I can do more service for the pleasure of Radha and Krishna. Srimati Radharani is the original, supreme, most spiritual master. And from her, she's Lalita, Vishaka, the Sakis, Chitra Saki, Indulaika Saki, Champat Lata, Ranga Devi, Sudevi. These Sakis, they all have their Manjari associates. Rupa Manjari, Vilas Manjari, like that. And all of the most perfected beings in the forms of Braja Gopis, they are always anxious to do more service, always feeling themselves that they haven't done enough. And therefore, they're always eager to hear from their authorities, from their gurus, and receive direction of how they can best serve and please Radha and Krishna. So this is the eternal nature of a perfectly liberated soul. In the path of bhakti, we're never content. We're always depending and aspiring for the blessings and the mercy of our seniors to guide us, to direct us, and to bless us. So how much greater is to understand us here in this world in our conditioned state. So Vyasadeva is representing the perfect consciousness in which to receive the spiritual master. Sometimes we become complacent. Everything's going very nice. Our family life is going nice. Our children are becoming nice devotees. All of our economic problems are not problems at all. And everyone likes us. And we're being very respected when we come to the temple. And our sadhana is very strong. Even when all this is there, Maya is ready to trap you by making you feel that everything is all right. Giving you a sense of complacency in your own service and in your own position in society. But to advance in Krishna consciousness, there must be a greed, an eagerness, an anxiety for more. And a receptive heart to receive the directions and the blessings by which we can receive that. That must always be there. And that is why it is important to regularly hear Srimad Bhagavatam. You see, just like in surgery, sometimes you're stabbed, sometimes you're cut. But we don't want anesthesia. We want to feel the pain as the knife of the sadhu's words go into our heart. Because it keeps us awake, it keeps us alive, it keeps us feeling a sense of discontentness in our present situation, so we can strive and hanker and long for more. So at this very time, Narada appeared. It's wonderful. Narada didn't appear until Vedavyas was in distress. But we find that this is the case wherever there's a proper transmission of transcendental knowledge. Krishna didn't speak to Arjuna until he was in distress, until he was longing for guidance, until he felt himself incapable. Then Krishna, he waited for that moment. Similarly, Shukadeva Goswami didn't speak to Maharaj Parikshit until he was cursed to die in 7 days. He was eager, he was anxious, as Arjuna was, as Vyasadeva is. So at this time, Krishna sends Sri Narada Muni. And when Narada Muni appears, we are reading today how Srila Vedavyas received him. Even though he was an incarnation of Godhead, even though he was the greatest of all learned scholars, sometimes, Ramaharshan Sutta, he was killed by Balaram because he didn't rise from his Vyasasan to greet the personality of Godhead. So, it's called a Vyasasan because it's the seat of Vyas. It's actually no one's seat except Vyasa's. Even though our Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, would sit, we wouldn't call it Srila Prabhupada-san, or Bhakti Siddhanta-san, or Bhakti Vinoda-san, or even Narottam Dasa-san, or Rupa-san. It's Vyasa-san. All these personalities are sitting on Vyasadev's seat as his representative. The seat does not belong to them. They are sitting on Vyasadev's seat to repeat Vyasadev's words as a service. But here, Vyasadeva, who is the true proprietor of that seat, even he's standing up to receive a great saintly person. So he's standing up respectfully, and he's worshipping, giving veneration equal to that given to Brahmaji, the creator. And here is the great beauty of the mystery of disciplic succession, parampara. That by being the servant of the servant of the servant, we actually become the most gracious servant of the Master. Because the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, He is revealing Himself through this wonderful disciplic succession. And He is also simultaneously receiving our devotion through this process of disciplic succession. Krishna originally spoke to Brahma. Tene Brahma Hridaya Ada Kavayari. When Brahma was sitting on his asana of the lotus flower, Padmanabh, which came from the navel of Lord Garabhodakshayi Vishnu, he submissively performed tapasya, seva, and he was anxious to hear. So the Lord spoke to him the knowledge of the Vedas. He spoke that same knowledge to Narada. And Narada here is being worshipped by Vyasadeva in such a way that he knows that although Narada is the son of Brahma, and Brahma is in the supreme position in this universe, whatever I offer Narada is Brahma. Therefore, I must respect him exactly as if respecting Brahma. Srila Prabhupada is the founder Acharya of this most munificent society of Krishna consciousness. And we should know that how we approach his representative is how we are approaching him. Why? Because it is simply his words coming through the representatives. There is not only one representative of Srila Prabhupada, there are many representatives of Srila Prabhupada. And we must learn to honor each one of them in the same way as we would honor Prabhupada. We should see Srila Prabhupada in them. And in this way, Srila Prabhupada, he is expecting us to see Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati through him and to respect and worship in that way. We find that the disciple always takes the most humble position before his spiritual master, however qualified they may be. But the disciple of that spiritual master, although he may be taking a very humble position before his guru, he doesn't try to jump over, but he tries to take a humble position before that person. That is Mahaprabhu's philosophy. Gopi Bhartur Padakamalayora Das Das Anudas. To be the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. He reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die when thou art living still and sound. Vaishnavas die to live and live to spread the holy name around. So none of the previous acharyas have died. They are all living in sound. And wherever those faithful representatives are vibrating that sound, all the previous acharyas are living within that person. They are bestowing Mahaprabhu's mercy through that person. And not only that, but they are collecting our offerings on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is explained that Brahma is the father of all vidhis. And he is the embodiment of all transcendental knowledge. And Vedavyas is here, worshipping, respecting, and offering veneration to his Guru on an equal level to that of Brahmaji. And because Vedavyas was approaching Narada in this spirit, and this is very important to understand, he wasn't approaching Narada because Narada was Narada. He was approaching Narada with such respect and submissiveness because Narada was the representative of Brahma and Krishna. And this is the difference between a personality cult and a proper religion based on truth. However wonderful a person may speak, however handsome a person may move his body, however empowered one may be with siddhis or charismatic, if we actually want to learn the truth, we do not respect and venerate that person because of what he is. We respect and venerate that person because of what that person represents. And we have seen too often how oftentimes disciples or followers, they lose that perception. And they think that this is my guru, and whatever he says doesn't matter. Doesn't matter any guru, it doesn't matter any sadhu or any shastra. To me, he is God. God is speaking through him. In this way, we are in the wrong consciousness. We do not understand how to approach a spiritual master. Vedavyas is teaching us. Because he is representing Brahma, therefore, I will hear from him and I will offer him all respect and veneration. I will surrender to his lotus feet. Similarly, in this movement, we should respect and adore someone because they are representing Prabhupada and Bhakti Siddhant Gaur Kishore, Bhakti Vinod, Jagannath Das Babaji, Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivas Acharya, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Rupan Sanatan, Swarup Damodar Goswami, Nityananda Prabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ishwara Puri, Madhavendra Puri, Madhvacharya, Lakshmi Bhattirtha, Madhvacharya, Vyas Narada, and Krishna. And Krishna is the disciple of Radharani. Chaitanya Charitamrita states this. Krishna says that Radharani, her bhakti, her love, is so much, so deep, so great that love is my guru. I am controlled by it. I am the servant of it. Whatever. I dance according to her love. So Radha and Krishna, their loving affair is the supreme guru. And we must know that this mercy, this grace, and this knowledge must come down through proper disciplic succession. And we must honor and venerate a person. Those persons, not necessarily just one person, but those persons who are properly representing that truth. And of course, when we are preaching to others, we should know that we are taking position as a representative of the disciplic succession. So we should be very careful to only speak on behalf of the previous acharyas. However little we know, we should present it nicely. We may not be big scholars, but whatever little we have learned, you just present it nicely as it is. And you can bring those people in contact with the whole flow of transcendental mercy coming through parampara. And that is the greatest service that we can render. On behalf of Gurudev and the Vaishnavas, we simply want to induce everyone to chant the holy names. Because that is the essential essence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's gift to the world. To perfect and purify our lives by properly taking shelter of the holy name of Krishna. And this can only take place in our lives when we learn to properly respect, venerate, and serve those great representatives of the previous acharyas, the Vaishnavas. Is there any questions?
Maharaj, with great purity and penetration, you've revealed to us how humility is necessary in every step of our devotional life. My question is, however, that in protecting our devotional creeper, we require to identify contaminating elements which can affect our devotional spirit. So how does one remain that sense of humility in the face of criticism, proper criticism of negative elements? In other words, you have to say, you have to identify what is going to hurt your spiritual life. So to do that, how does one remain humble in being critical?
We must discriminate. There is false humility, and there is the pursuance of real humility. False humility is based on illusion, and real humility is based on truth. We want to humble ourselves to the truth, and we want to boldly fight against illusion. Because boldly fighting against illusion is humble service to the truth. Arjuna was thinking, I will be humble by not killing my relatives. But because his relatives were representing illusion, Krishna told him, your humility is to kill them. And if you do not, if you humble yourself before them, that is another sort of pride, because it is an illusion. So, on the basis of knowledge, we must learn to discriminate. How the truth is coming down, where the truth is manifesting itself, and we must, with an absolutely submissive heart, humble ourselves to serve that truth and to hear that truth. But to the degree we know the truth, to that degree we are also able to decipher what is coming in disguise of truth, but is not. And we cannot humble ourselves to that. Depending on our particular position, humble service to the truth is to expose it, to defeat it, or to simply go away and not listen and not associate with it. Srila Prabhupada was such a humble devotee, the supreme, most purest, humble Vaishnava. But yet, if you listen to his tapes or read his books, sometimes he kicks Darwin in the face with his boot. Or sometimes he declares various Mayavadis to be rascals. Is that humble? He declares certain Sahajya sects to be cheating imitationists. If one of his own disciples was misrepresenting his teachings, he would call him a nonsense rascal. Huh? So, is this humble? Declaring people to be rascals, nonsense, imitationists? Yes. Because he was humbly serving the truth by exposing that which was enemies of the truth and fighting like a warrior against them. He had that power. That is real humility. But if we don't have that power, because we are not so deeply learned in the Shastra to defeat all opposing arguments, all of the enemies of the truth or deviators of the truth, we must at least be able to discriminate and not associate with such people. Keep our distance from such a situation. That is humility. That is real humility. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he rejected Mukunda Dutt. Said, I will never see him. I will never allow him to see me ever again. Because first he comes to bow down at my feet, and then he beats me with sticks on the head. First he comes and he chants and dances with us, and then we know that he goes and he listens to Mayavad philosophy. He rejected him. Of course, he was doing this as an example for us. Mukunda Dutt, he was actually such a pure, unmotivated, unalloyed Vaishnav. But when he was younger, it is explained, he had a guru who was teaching those things, and he was obliged to listen for some time. But Mahaprabhu took it so seriously. Such humility. You're bowing down like you're humble, but actually you're hitting me on the head by hearing these things. So it's not humble to submit ourselves before what is not the truth, what is a deviation. It is humility to help, to fight, to establish and preserve what is the real truth in our own hearts and in the minds of others. Does that answer your question?
Two questions. You were talking about the representatives of Prabhupada.
One second, but we have to know that there. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he defeated Prakashananda Saraswati, who was preaching an illusion, by his humility. By sitting in that place where the other sannyasis were washing their feet. And when Prakashananda saw his beautiful, glowing effulgence, he said, "Swamiji, please come and sit with us." He said, "I am not fit to sit with you. You are all such highly liberated souls." In this way, his humility and his beauty melted their hearts so much that they were willing to listen to whatever he said. And then he destroyed and defeated their whole philosophy. And similarly, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was also preaching an illusion. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he just sat patiently, he won his heart, and then he spoke and converted him. So we must know that there are various ways of fighting against the truth. And according to our own spiritual empowerment, which is coming by the mercy of the Vaishnavas, we have to do what will best serve the truth, what will best work to change people's hearts. But if you're not so advanced, you shouldn't think that you can expose yourself to these things without being defeated yourself. You cannot. Yes.
We were talking about respecting all the representatives of Srila Prabhupada. So in the course of our spiritual life, we see that each representative of Prabhupada is empowered in some way to manifest some aspect of Krishna consciousness. But then we also see that there are a particular few who manifest Prabhupada in a much more intense way, and which makes us especially attracted to such representatives. So that is my first question. Is that so? Should we cultivate that attraction? And my second question is regarding one at
a time. We should offer all respect and veneration to anyone who is nicely representing the previous acharyas. But it's not that we follow everyone. We have to have a specific, particular link. And to that person who we call our Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru, depending on the relationship, that is the person that we actually inquire from as to how we should surrender to Krishna in our life. It's not that we just go around making everybody our guru and inquiring submissively from everyone. We should be humble to serve everyone, but we must have one we have to have one direction, Vyavashayatmaka buddhi. That person who we are accepting as that personal link to Srila Prabhupada in our own life, we should never feel that we need to have second opinions beyond his. That person who you are speaking of, whoever it may be, who's giving us Srila Prabhupada in such a way we are committing ourselves to, in a faithful and chaste manner, we simply serve his order. But part of his order must be that we offer all respect and veneration to all other such Vaishnavas. It's not a question of my guru is better than your guru. This is neophyte consciousness. For this other person, his guru is better than my guru. That is natural. But I will follow my Gurudev, and I will be faithful to his instructions. And I will hear from other Vaishnavas to inspire me in the mission of what Gurudev is giving me, service to Srila Prabhupada's mission. We should honor, respect, and venerate all proper devotees. But still, that special connection of surrender is within that person who is linking us to the disciplic succession. Simultaneously one and different. Achintya Beda Abeda Tattva. All the exalted disciples of Prabhupada, we should see that they are all one in one respect, and therefore we respect and venerate them all. But still, there is one and different. Our Guru is different also. Not that he's better, but he is the connection coming through me, and it is to him that I give my surrender and all my love. To Krishna through the previous acharyas. You understand? Second question?
The second question is, you were saying that we have to have this eagerness to always accept instructions from Guru and to follow and to improve in our spiritual life. So, in our day-to-day activities and service, we should always be praying to the Guru within our heart. We should always be praying within our heart. We should develop that type of consciousness.
That is ideal. If we can always be praying to the Guru within our heart. Because the Guru is the representative of Paramatma, the super soul in our heart. It is through the instructions of Gurudev that we actually are connected to the Paramatma. Chaitira Guru. So that is, Srila Prabhupada used to tell us that there's never a time when he's not remembering his spiritual master. And of course, his spiritual master, we can conclude that his remembrance was always in humbly praying at his lotus feet. So that is the perfection of our life. That is the goal we should be striving for.
We often hear that faith and surrender go together. And we also hear that we should represent the spiritual master because we should respect the spiritual master because of what he's representing. Should have faith in him, in his words, because of what he's repeating from the previous acharyas. And where do we draw the line between faith and blind faith?
Same as Kripa Maya's question. Blind faith means faith that is not based on the principles of truth. Srila Prabhupada has given us his books. His books are the authorized translations and commentaries of the original Vedas, which are the revelation of truth in this world. So by understanding nicely his books, in nice association we can understand what is true and what is false. And we should put our faith in what is true. If we do not know what is true and what is false, then we are subject to blind faith. But if we understand what is true and what is false, and we put our faith according to what direction truth is giving us, that is real faith. And it's not that you have to be a deeply scholarly philosopher. Prabhupada has presented it in such simple and wonderful way. What is the Yuga Dharma? To chant the Mahamantra. That Krishna is a person. And all other energies and all other aspects of the truth are subordinate to Krishna, who is Swayam Bhagavan. And by chanting His holy names in this age of Kali Yuga, we can purify our hearts and come in contact with that truth. And we must give up sense gratification. Sense gratification is most dangerous through the processes of illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, meat eating. These are basic truths. Easy to understand. We are not this body. If you are sincere and you hear these words, you will understand. And if someone is repeating those truths, and other great Vaishnavas are corroborating that yes, what he is saying is correct, then we have no reason to doubt. We can put our full faith. Blind faith is based on our own sentiment and tinged by our own material motivations. Real faith is based on the descending words of Krishna and the previous acharyas. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.